time to get unmasked. Please welcome your hosts, Pamela Elaine Nichols and Cheryl A.S. Hurley.
Good afternoon, good afternoon, good afternoon. We are so glad that you took time to join us for our Unmasked Live. As already noted, my name is Cheryl Hurley, and this is my partner in love, Pamela Elaine Nichols. We want to just take a moment to share with you the purpose of our Unmasked Live. One of the things that we desire to do is to awaken a woman's soul to get real about how she feels. Each week, we're going to be tackling a real topic and take off our masks. You know how we can wear those masks? Well, we're going to take them off. We're going to get raw. We're going to get real. Because if you can't get real, guess what? You can't get free. We want to free up our sisters who feel stuck. Those who might feel that they struggle with low self-esteem and shame while telling others, I'm doing fine, when really they aren't. Because we will be talking about some very sensitive, some real topics, we will be taking this live format to a private Facebook group in late February. So if you want to join our group and participate in these lives where we're going to have some raw, some real conversations, we want you to request to join Unmasked Real Talk. When we open the group, those who stay until the end, we want to let you know that you're going to be able to be eligible to enter into the raffle to receive a prize that says, I am enough memory box. We invite you to join our conversation by participating or putting your posts in the comments section so we can address them at the end, towards the end rather. But again, we are ready to get raw, to get real, and to become unmasked.
I'm ready, Cheryl. I'm ready to
Me
get
too.
raw
Me too.
and get unmasked. So last week's topic was revenge done right. Today we have a different topic, no less important, and it's called Comparison Crushes the Soul. Yes, comparison crushes the soul. So Cheryl, why don't we take our listening audience through a little sample of what comparison is by way of a story. But before we go there, why don't you tell us what comparison really is like from, we did a little research. So tell us what that is.
We certainly, and what happens is that whenever we bring a topic and we want it to be a real raw conversation, we're also going to add some research to it so people have a deeper or more in-depth understanding of comparison. Now, comparison can have a variety of ranges, but we want to focus on one specific area, social comparison. And when we think about social comparison, it is a theory of social comparison that gives the idea that individuals determine their own social and their own personal worth based upon how they stack up against others. Basically, how we measure ourselves with another person.
Yeah. So we got a little we're going to play with this in a fun way and then get really real and raw. Let's give the people a story of a woman named Sharon who was so addicted to comparison, it caused her a severe challenge in her life that her daughter witnessed. Let's take it from there, Cheryl.
Okay. Sharon was no stupid woman. She had a bachelor's degree in business from a reputable college. She was a solid B+ student in school. She had won a few awards on her job and even led a team of colleagues on an important project. Often, her friends would comment on her knowledge and found her business savvy useful for their needs. Sharon, however, did not see herself as others saw her. She felt very different about herself. This difference came from a bad habit she secretly kept on a daily basis. In fact, multiple times per day, Sharon would scroll through her Instagram feed. When she would hit a post by someone mentioning the success of another, her heart would sink. Sharon would ask herself,
why isn't that person mentioning me?
in other posts where someone announced their own promotion or upcoming speaking engagement, Sharon would gently pout.
I'm not as successful as they are. Nothing I ever do gets me attention.
More often than not, Sharon would look up and find that she had been on social media for hours. In those cases, her pouting would turn to depression.
They seem to have everything going for them. I don't.
The daily comparisons had gone on for so long in Sharon's world that it hit a low point one day. Sharon couldn't stop crying. The more she told herself to stop crying, the harder she cried. Downstairs in the basement of her home, her crying episode erupted unexpectedly and in the worst of company. Panicked, her 7-year-old daughter grabbed the phone and called her aunt, Sharon's sister.
My mommy is really, really crying hard and she won't stop.
Sharon's sister calmly instructed her 7-year-old niece to wait while she could get to her sister's house, and she would be there shortly. Before Sharon's sister arrived, Sharon had already gone upstairs, taken all of the keys to the bathroom doors, and locked herself in the powder room. On the small, cold linoleum floor, she continued to sob. Her body heaved with each teardrop. By then, her daughter was out of her mind with confusion and despair. Her little girl couldn't understand in her innocence how her mother, the one always in control, was clearly out of control. Sharon's sister finally arrived. Sharon's daughter led her to where Sharon was. She knocked on the bathroom door and called out Sharon's name to open the door. Sharon ignored her. She knocked again. Sharon continued to ignore her. Sharon's daughter cried out to her mom.
Mommy, mommy, please open the door. Please, mommy.
Sharon's sister turned to her niece.
Yana, let's go upstairs and watch your favorite movie, Ice, and give your mom a little time to feel better, okay?
Yana reluctantly agreed, and her aunt escorted her upstairs to watch the movie. After 15 minutes of calm, Yana started to fall asleep. Her aunt quietly walked downstairs to check on her sister. Sharon was still locked in the bathroom when her sister came back downstairs. Her sister knocked gently on the door and softly whispered,
Sharon, I love you. It's okay. You can open the door. I love you, Sharon. Sharon?
Without hesitation, Sharon unlocked the door. Her sister entered quickly and locked the door behind her, fell to the floor, and wrapped her arms around her sister. Her sister repeated over and over again,
I love you, Sharon. Sharon, I love you. It's okay.
Sharon's sister peeled her off the floor and made a pot of coffee for them. That's when Sharon reluctantly revealed her secret, addictive, and debilitating social media habit.
So are you ladies ready to take your mask off? Are you ready to unmask? Here is our unmasked question. What does comparing yourself to others do to your soul? Now it's time to get real.
Time to get real.
Time to get real. Time to get real. Time to get raw.
Yeah.
So for me, Cheryl, I'm gonna just put it out there.
Put it out there.
I still compare myself to other women on social media. I still do it to this day. The feelings that come up for me when I do, I feel like I'm not as worthy as the people I'm comparing myself to.
Yeah.
I even feel, can I say it? Jealous.
Say it.
Sometimes feel jealous.
Yeah. And one of the things that, we talked about is the importance of getting real and getting raw. That is real, because sometimes we set these goals for ourselves and we want to get to a certain place. And when we feel that we're not there and we look at where somebody else is at, then we begin to, just like you said, get jealous and feel like, well, what's wrong with me? Everything that Sharon talked about, if we would take the mask off and we would put it on ourselves, we feel the same way she felt. We experience feelings of like, maybe I'm not good enough. And maybe my self-esteem is being diminished because of the way I think. So therefore, we also develop an attitude. We get envious, we get jealous, and we get mad.
Well, you know what? I remember meeting you. We've been friends a long time.
A long time. We know where the bodies are.
And I remember looking at you, and then I remember observing you because you're such a great person, great spirit. And I used to say to myself, Charles is so perfect. She has, I swear, you know this because I've told you this. She
Yeah.
doesn't have any problems. She gets along well with everybody. Everybody likes her. So let me just ask you, do you personally, Cheryl, ever have comparison issues?
Yeah. And the thing about it, Pam, is that when I think about when you ask that question, when I go back then, what happens is that we talk about, how are we feeling? I'm feeling fine. I'm doing awesome. And I look a certain way. But when we begin to take the mask off and get real, yeah, I have problems. Yeah, I struggle with a comparison. I struggle with the fact of feeling that, well, maybe I'm not good enough, or maybe things did not happen because of something I might have did, or the way I might think. And what happens is that that's real talk. And because we're talking about it and we're unpacking it, it's okay. Just because it's a thought does not have to mean that it's a reality, but my willingness to acknowledge it is what's so important. That acknowledgement. So yeah. Yeah.
Yeah. I'm glad you shared that because I was thinking while you were talking that when I feel when I look at someone else on social media, whether their accomplishments or their looks, um, I think I have this jealousy that comes up in me, and there's a sensation like in my gut. The feeling is like in my gut of jealousy, and like I don't feel like I'm as good as they are, but it's a physical feeling. I feel it in my body.
Mhm.
Um, and there, even after I shut down the social media or scroll past something I don't want to look at, even after that, and I leave and I go about my day, I still feel that
Mhm.
feeling
Mhm.
of I'm not as good, I'm not as pretty, I'm not as accomplished, I'm not as smart as I did when I was in the moment of scrolling through social media. Do you ever have that experience?
I've had some similar feelings, but one of the things that came up for me when you said that, Pam, is that when we talk about jealousy and envy, it's not necessarily of that person, but feeling, why am I not where that person is, or why is what's happening in that person's life not happening in my life? And I think that when we make the distinction between the two, because sometimes people can perceive jealousy and envy to be towards a person when it's not necessarily towards a person, is toward where that person might be based upon what we perceive to be a certain way. And we begin to question, why aren't we there? Or why isn't that thing happening for us? So when you take it to that perspective, then what happens, those thoughts are creating those feelings. And those feelings that you're talking about, when you walk away, guess what? Wherever you go, those feelings are going with you. And that's what we want to unpack. Oh, where are those feelings coming from? Because of the thoughts that we have about what it is that we perceive. And the social media, that's why we talk about social comparison, because we're not even talking about a person. We're talking about a social comparison. And the truth be told, what it looks like often is not what it is.
Not what it
It's
is.
coming off a perception that's not even a reality. You
Yeah,
know,
and you know what? We just described comparison where we feel not enough, not good enough, not worthy enough, where our self-confidence drops. But there's the other side too, where people will compare themselves. And I've done this, we're keeping it real. I've done this too. I've been on both sides. The other side is,
Mhm.
oh, I'm better than her. Oh, I look better than her. She's not as smart as me. She doesn't have as many degrees as me. It's the other side as well of comparison, because comparison is keeping score of losing and winning depending on who you're comparing yourself
Mhm.
to.
Mhm.
So it can be even those feelings of comparing yourself where I'm winning still doesn't feel good. It
Okay.
still doesn't feel good because I have to diminish someone else in
Mhm.
order to feel better about myself.
Mhm.
Really not a fulfilling experience.
Mhm. 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 Absolutely, absolutely. And one of the things when you stop to think about it, Pam, we talk about, the reality of what we experience as women, and particularly as women of faith, keeping it real,
Mm,
is the fact that once it becomes a reality and we might find ourselves in those places, the question we have to ask ourselves, what are we willing to do to unmask
mhm,
and
mhm,
to
mm.
address it, that it does not cause us to remain
Yeah,
stuck?
Yeah.
It does not cause us to begin to think lowly of ourselves, because when you compare yourself to someone, whether it be social or otherwise, it diminishes your belief in who you are. First
Yeah.
of all, whose you are, but who you are. And then those comparisons cause you to have a sense of low self-esteem versus having a God esteem or God confidence. And
Mm.
we might say, I'm a woman of faith. I'm a powerful woman of faith. I'm a woman of God. But when we look at our thinking and we look at our feeling, can we still say the same thing if we're struggling with a social comparison? No, we can't. So when
Right.
we think about that, we want to kind of like, we need to have a real moment and say, I need to unmask this. This is real.
And you know what, Cheryl, that's a powerful point,
Mm,
because comparison really isn't a bad thing. It's actually normal.
mhm.
The challenge comes in the story we tell ourselves
Yes.
about what we are comparing ourselves to. It's the story behind the comparison, because there's nothing wrong with me saying, we'll take you and me for an example.
Mhm,
Cheryl is taller than me.
mhm,
That's that's okay. I mean, that is a comparison. I am a few
mhm.
inches shorter than Cheryl. I'm a few inches shorter than you. There's nothing wrong with that. But what happens is, if I say, well, Cheryl is taller than me, that means only the tall women get the good men, because Cheryl got a good man. I don't. So the problem is, the meaning behind you being taller than me is that you get the good stuff. You get the great experience. You get the great guys. So that is a challenge right there. That is
Yeah.
debilitating and makes me feel small, because it's my meaning
Mhm.
I've given to that comparison. So we want to offer to our people, Cheryl, our listeners,
Yes. Mhm,
to change their comparison story
mhm,
with
mhm.
3 steps. Do you want to give them step number 1?
Step number 1 we need to do is just stop.
Stop.
You need to stop your comparison thoughts from racing and telling yourself directly that I'm not good enough. Just stop. That's the first step.
Yeah, and you can say stop with your name, and that's even more powerful. Stop,
Socialize it.
Pamela.
Mhm,
Stop,
mhm,
Cheryl. Stop,
mhm.
Louise. I
Yeah.
mean, stop with your name is powerful. Okay, what about
Yeah.
step 2?
And the second one is to think. We
Mm.
need to, after we've stopped, the next thing we need to do is think about the meaning you're telling yourself about the comparison that you're making. Just stop. And you stop. And then the second thing, you think about it.
Think
Yes.
about the meaning. Yeah, think about the meaning you're telling. So yeah, so like I said, um, you're taller than me. That means you get the good guys. You keep the good men. And we can think of all kinds of other things that we do. The meanings that we associate. Well, she has a 3 degrees. That means she's far smarter than me. Not necessarily.
Absolutely. And without recognizing that you might have the 3 degrees, but somebody else might have no degree and still have the same level of functioning professionally. And it's just like, understand. But again, what's key to recognize, these are the stories that we tell ourselves when we make social comparisons. So we've talked about step one,
Mhm.
we've talked about step two. Let's look at step three. Step three is to ask. Ask yourself, what one word or sentence you can tell yourself that will empower you in the moment to change the meaning you are telling yourself. So when you
Mm.
start to ask yourself, what's that one power word that I can give to myself that can change the whole entire trajectory of what has been governing my getting up, walking around everyday life that empowers you?
Yeah. And even if that you can't think of a word, but you could think of a sentence, that is just as good, but it's got to feel right to you. So the sentence that Sharon could have come up with, for example, in our story, the sentence Sharon could have come up with was something like, well, I have worked really hard for the position I have in my business or in my company, and I feel really good about what I've done.
Mhm,
That, while she's stopped herself, stopped sharing, while
mhm,
she's thinking, oh, the meaning I've given to someone else's accolades is that they're better than me and they're better positioned than me.
mhm.
Okay, that's the meaning you gave. Now ask yourself, what's that sentence? Well, okay, I've worked really hard
Yeah,
to be
yeah.
where I am. And it feels good to have that kind of recognition among my colleagues.
Yeah. And you know, when I think about that, you know, Pam, one of the things about it, when we change our perspective, what happens is that those accomplishments that we have along the way, when we change our thinking and we stop comparing ourselves to other people, we will begin to celebrate the small incremental steps along the way on our journey. And a lot
Mm,
of times, how often do we as women stop
yeah.
to celebrate ourselves? Doesn't matter how small it is a win. But how often do we celebrate it?
Yes, yes. That
Yeah.
is so true. And you know what? When we celebrate, we bring more things into our lives to celebrate.
Yes.
Okay. Now,
Yes.
now, Cheryl, one of the things that we do for women who want to change the story they tell themselves by looking at the meaning they give to their experiences, we do in our course that we teach, our group coaching course, Think Again. Think you don't matter. Think you aren't enough. Think Again. That is our signature group coaching course, which makes it extremely dynamic because it's a group where these women are learning about
Mhm.
sharing story and other stories where they can begin to shift the way they think about themselves so that they can have the freedom, the happiness, the success that they know they deserve in our
Absolutely. Absolutely.
yeah.
Absolutely. Mhm.
Now we want to see if there's anybody in the chat who has a question, and we're getting ready to go to our raffle. So I'm going to talk about what we're going to be raffling off anyway. How about that, Cheryl?
That would be good because I'm actually checking the chat as well. Yep. Mhm. Let's
So,
talk about that raffle. Talk about that raffle.
so we've got. Let's see if we got some images to show about our raffle. Okay, this is a box. The box is a I am enough or remember to remember that I am enough box. Now, the box, you're seeing the top of the box, but on the sides of the box, let me see if I can share it, my screen. Yeah, here's on the side of the box, good enough. Another side of the box is pretty enough.
Mhm.
Another side of the box, if I can get this straight, is smart enough.
Mhm.
So each box, oh, here, brave enough. Each side has a signature saying. What we want the person to do who gets this is the days that you're feeling really good about yourself, you're going to take this piece of paper that comes with the box. I am blank enough, 2 or 4. So I am smart enough to be promoted on my job. How about that? And then you fold this, you place it in your remember to remember box. I know it's hard to see. Sorry, I can't do anything about the light. And you just leave it.
Yeah.
You just leave it on your counter, in your bedroom, on your bathroom sink.
Yeah.
And you keep adding to this box and adding to this box and adding to this box. Guess what? When you start comparing yourself with other people, you go to your box, pull out something you wrote a week or two
Yes.
ago, read it. I remember I am smart enough to be promoted on my job. You keep adding to this box till it's full, and it is your go-to when
That's
things get rough, when your thoughts start stinking and the meaning you're giving to your life isn't supporting you. Remember to remember. Shout out to the design by Maya Siegel, a high school student.
right.
Okay, so I think it's probably time to. Oh, we've got some people who said something.
Exactly. And what I was going to say is that we're hopeful that one of our guests will win this box because one of the comments I see in here is one person said that I struggle with all of these things. And that's from our sister Lisa Bernard. And in addition to that, another one of our sisters who's in the audience, Sharon Ferguson, said my box would always be empty. So we're hopeful that one of you and the others that are in there, one of you will win that because we want to encourage you to fill that box up.
Yeah, and Danielle says, I love this idea. Stop that
Yes.
stinking thinking. That's right. So it looks
Yeah.
like we've got at least 3 people
Yeah.
that can go into the raffle. So let's get the raffle started. Kayla?
Yes.
Out.
We're gonna drum roll for the lucky winner. Or we're not going to say lucky, we're going to say the blessed winner. Yes. Lisa Bernard.
Lisa Bernard. So what we're going to ask of you, Lisa, is if you would please private message us with the shipping address where you want this lovely box to go to, and we will ship it out to you. Just give us a little bit of time to get it mailed to you. You know, the mail is slow. Oh, congratulations. And
Yes,
we're so glad.
yes,
Welcome,
yes.
Esther. Welcome, Joanne. We got some people showing up. That's great. And we are on our way out, though. So, Cheryl, you want to wrap it up and let's say goodbye?
What we want to do is thank all of those who joined us on today for our Unmasked Live. And again, just to kind of reiterate a couple of things, we're going to post the video and you can always go back and look at it. But we are going to be converting over to a private Facebook community. So if you wish to join this private group, we're going to ask you to send us a message requesting to join. We did see some through some earlier posts that people have already begun to request. We want you to do that because, you know, we're just touching the tip of the iceberg, but we're going to take it to some places where we need to have some raw, real conversation. So we just want to thank you who have joined with us on this afternoon. And we hope this conversation about social comparison is something that we can all feast off of. And if there's any things that we're hiding, that we will unmask them, that we can walk in victory. So again, thank you for joining us. And we look forward to seeing you next week at the same time at 1:30 p.m. for our Unmasked Live.
And be sure to invite
And you can say that I'm crazy,